Welcome to the ultimate disaster management simulator, where nobody has a clue what's going on, including the heroes! On today's episode of Sprunki Rush, we've got 3 contestants. First up, Blue, the emotionally unstable mascot from Rainbow Friends, who thinks rescue means screaming and licking things. By the way, if you want to experience this glorious confusion yourself, the link to the game is in the description. Coming soon, bring snacks and emotional support. Next, Huggy Wuggy, who is definitely not designed for subtlety or logic. His strategy? Yell, flail, trip over a rock, then blame the Sprunky. And finally, Pinky Pig. Don't be fooled by the name. He's got a 5-star Yelp review for unintentional chaos. First instinct, eat the Sprunky. Second instinct, eat himself. In round 1, it's confusion. In round 2, it's chaos. And in round 3, well, somehow, miraculously, each of them kind of figures it out. Round 1 begins with our fuzzy blue chaos generator Huggy Wuggy, and his first move is grabbing a suspiciously hissing can of Coca-Cola. 1 second later, he explodes into fluffy blue confetti along with 3 screaming Sprunky. A strong opening. But don't worry, he respawns, ready to redeem himself with new wisdom. He walks 10 feet and immediately finds a giant industrial shredder. His brain says no. His heart says yes! He jumps in. Spoiler alert! The shredder wins! Respawn number 2. This time Huggy Wuggy discovers a grenade launcher! He spots the shredder again and decides. This is personal. Grenades are launched. The shredder doesn't care! The Sprunky definitely care! 2 are vaporized. Huggy Wuggy stands too close. Boom! Respawn number 3. We're getting good at this. Now he finds something that may or may not be a tactical nuke. Huggy Wuggy shrugs, looks at the camera, says nothing, runs straight at the shredder again. Result: 4th explosion. Shredder still undefeated. Sprunky population getting nervous. They start whispering in high-pitched gibberish, which roughly translates to, "Please stop helping us." At this point, Huggy Wuggy finally notices a nearby car. No sharp edges, no blinking lights, no exposed wires. He climbs in, turns the key, and for the first time in history, he does not explode. Let's see how long that lasts. And now, behold the era of the steering wheel. Huggy Wuggy has entered the driver's seat, and things get philosophical. He accelerates, then forgets what brakes are. He turns left when he means right. Right when he means banana. Sprunky are flying in all directions, like colorful popcorn with anxiety. But somehow, they survive. Apparently, the laws of cartoon physics have granted them immunity to vehicular nonsense. They bounce, they squeak, they wobble dramatically. Then they keep following him like everything's fine. Huggy Wuggy's driving style can best be described as chaotic neutral, with brief flashes of, why are there 3 pedals and only 2 feet? And somewhere in the chaos, in the tire tracks, in the burning smell of fried logic, a deeper question arises. What is purpose? Why are we here? Are we all just tiny rainbow Sprunky getting flattened by the big blue mess of fate? And if so, is the shredder just a metaphor for everything that shreds our dreams? No, it is literally a shredder. And Huggy Wuggy remembers his old nemesis.
Huggy Wuggy found a can.
Thought it was a rescue plan.
Boom went he and boom went 3.
Sprunky flew into a tree.
Tried to shred the shredder twice.
Turns out metal's not that nice.
Found a car and hit the gas.
Drove right through a rainbow mass.
Grenade launcher, big kaboom.
Sprunky hiding in the broom.
But in the end he pressed the switch. Saved them all without a glitch.
finally walks up to it and somehow finds a button. One single button. Probably labeled something like, absolutely do not touch ever under any circumstance. He touches it. The shredder explodes into a million mechanical regrets. Victory! And now, for the first time, he actually looks at the Sprunky. They look back. They squeak, he nods. Then carefully, methodically, heroically, does something right. He finds the rescue button. He presses it. The Sprunky fly upward into their spaceship, cheering, spinning, saying something like, blup, blup, glare, we're going home. Huggy Wuggy stands in silence, covered in tire marks and hope. He did it. He really did it. Next time, maybe don't start with the Coca-Cola bomb. Blue enters the arena with confidence, unfounded, overcooked, and dangerously floating confidence. His first move is attaching balloons to the other two heroes. Huggy Wuggy floats upward in confusion. Pinky Pig twirls like a porky piata. They both scream. They both flail. They both ascend to the upper atmosphere of emotional trauma. Blue, he's giggling. This is comedy gold to him. Pure physics, base stand up. The Sprunky, however, are horrified. They squeak in panic. They run in circles. One of them tries to pop a balloon using what appears to be a small rubber spoon. It fails. Everything fails. Except gravity. Gravity always works. But Blue isn't done. He stares at a nearby car, smiles, and ties a balloon to it. Of course he does. The back of the car lifts slightly. Wheels spin helplessly. Blue climbs in like nothing is wrong, which is, in itself, very wrong. Now the front wheels touch the ground. The back wheels hover. He drives. Sideways, diagonal, upside down philosophy in motion. He flattens three Sprunky immediately. They bounce off the bumper and land in a bush, mumbling gibberish about workers' comp. More follow. Some jump onto the hood. One climbs onto the balloon and just gives up entirely. Blue continues to drive. And as he does, no. Wait, no more dots. He drives, and something deep begins to stir. What is it about repetition that makes us human? Is it the ability to learn from mistakes? Or is it the glorious stubborn refusal to do so? Here is Blue, presented with the wreckage of 2 failed rescue attempts, armed with full hindsight, and he still chooses chaos. Maybe he doesn't want to succeed. Maybe success feels like a trap. Maybe a floating car is his personal truth. What if the balloon is the plan? What if ascending into mid-air confusion is the destination, not the detour? What if flattening Sprunky is not the bug, but the feature? Sprunky don't understand. They try to help. They form a tiny squeaky intervention circle. They hold up signs. One just right. There is a force in this world. It does not move. It does not blink. It does not reason. Some call it a machine. Some call it the end of curiosity. Some just call it the shredder. It stands there. Always.
Unimpressed.
Unshredded. You may bring it bombs. You may bring it couches. You may bring it your finest, most unstable vehicle with a balloon attached. It will not care. And that's what makes it powerful. Because the shredder is not just metal and blades. It is metaphor. It is fate that grinds your plans. It is the mirror that reflects your worst idea, then eats it. Every hero sees it and thinks I can win this. And every hero walks away respawned. The shredder does not fight you. It receives you. It does not attack. It accepts your offering of chaos and returns only silence. In a world of noise, the shredder is peace. In a game of movement, it is the still point of oblivion. And maybe, just maybe, the real lesson isn't how to defeat the shredder. It's how to stop running into it like a complete lunatic.
Blue tied balloons to all his friends, sent them flying without ends.
He laughed and clapped and spun around while Sprunky screamed above the ground. He drove a car with floaty wheels, crushed some Spunky, no big deals. He shouted proudly, I'm the best, while chaos danced and failed the test. Blue thinks he's smarter than Huggy Wuggy, though both exploded things quite buggy. But Blue declares with royal flair, my planet's style and air. He launched a couch at deadly steel, declared it tactical and real. And when the Sprunky tried to flee, he shouted, no, come follow me. So if you think he's got a clue, just check the crater count from Blue. But in his mind, he saved the day with flying pigs and couch ballet. Blind Blue thinks he's wiser, sharper, slicker, but every move just ends in ticker. Yet somehow still he leads the pack until his next balloon attack.
Don't let me pop. You're the only hero. I'm too soft for this. Hey, Boots, help! You're the only hero. Don't let me pop. You're the only hero. You're the only hero. Save me, tall one. Save me, tall one. I'm too soft for this. Save me, tall one. You're the only hero. Don't let me pop. You're the only hero. Don't let me pop. Please don't let me pop. Don't let me pop. Tall one. Save me, tall one. Don't let me pop. I'm fragile and fabulous. Hey, Boots, help! Save me, tall one. Save me, tall one. You're the only hero.
Somehow, in spite of everything, in spite of the chaos, the balloons, the confused vehicle physics, the polite but utterly indifferent presence of the shredder, Blue completes his task, not perfectly, not even sensibly, but undeniably. And maybe that's the real miracle here. Not the method, not the logic, but the sheer unstoppable momentum of someone who never once asked, is this a good idea? And just kept going anyway. Because sometimes, salvation doesn't look like a hero with a plan. Sometimes it looks like a blue creature with wild eyes, poor coordination, and way too many balloons. Sometimes it's not about doing things right. It's about doing them enough. The Sprunki are saved, not because of strategy, not because of skill, but because someone pressed forward again and again, through explosions and confusion, and the occasional airborne automobile. And when the last Sprunki vanishes into the sky, squeaking and spinning, something shifts. Not in the world, but in us. Because we've seen the impossible. We've seen someone triumph by pure chaotic persistence. We've seen that even the most bewildered traveler can reach the finish line just by never stopping, never thinking too hard, and never asking for directions. In the end, Blue stands still, victorious. Confused, but victorious. And maybe, just maybe, that's what greatness really looks like. And now it begins again. The round belongs to Pinky Pig, the newest contender in the ever-growing pantheon of meaning disaster artists. He enters the world not as a savior, but as a statement, a round pink hypothesis in the ongoing experiment called What Happens If We Do It Again, but louder. And the world around him, it braces. The Sprunky feel it immediately. That shift in the wind, that rumble in the ground, that subtle sense that someone new is pressing buttons without reading anything. They've seen this dance before. They've lived it. Balloons. Explosions. Unlicensed driving behavior. And now again. But this time with hooves. There is an almost mythic quality to how perfectly Pinky Pig reenacts every error. Like a ceremony. As if the failures of his predecessors are not warnings, but choreography. Steps he is destined to follow not out of ignorance, but out of cosmic design. Because in this universe, mistakes are not deviations, they are the path. He charges forward. He ignores instruction. He invents chaos where none existed and adds more where there already was. And through it all he believes. Not in reason, not in instruction manuals, but in some inner force that whispers, "I've got this." Even as everything around him bursts into colorful screaming spirals. And perhaps that's the most human thing of all, to charge into the same wall again and again, assuming each time it might not be a wall, but a cleverly disguised victory. To the Sprunky, it is déjà vu with a different silhouette. To us, it is entertainment. To the pig, it is purpose. And it is from this dance of repetition, of echo, of glorious pink déjà vu, that we now descend deeper into the feelings, the fears, the philosophies of the ones who never meant to be here in the first place.
The Sprunky.
The rainbow refugees. The terrified audience to this endless game of trial and error. We descend now into their hearts. There is a moment, not loud, not dramatic, just a moment when something very small, very colorful, very lost, looks up at the sky and asks, without asking, "What is this place?" The Sprunky did not plan to come here! No one makes travel brochures about Earth that say, "Great for being accidentally launched into cartoon chaos!" They didn't sign up for this bizarre amusement park of physics, noise, and high-speed confusion. They came from a quiet place, a bright, peaceful world where things floated instead of exploded, and where the floor didn't randomly vanish under you when someone pressed the wrong button. And now they run in crowds. They scatter at the sound of a honk. They squeak in fear when confronted with yet another self-proclaimed hero who just discovered what a button does. By pressing all of them at once. You see, from the Sprunky's perspective, Earth is not a planet. It's an escape room with no puzzles and only fire. It's a cosmic comedy show where they're the punchline, the confetti, the background chorus of blorp, blorp, blarp. And yet they keep following. They follow the loud ones, the tall ones, the ones with eyes too big and plans too small, because hope is not logical. Hope is a Sprunky clinging to the ankle of a flying pig and whispering in its squeaky voice, "Maybe this one's different." Ah, but the pig. Yes, the pig. A round, determined force of motion and noise. A creature that looks at chaos and says, "Interesting. Let me try that, but with more velocity." And the Sprunky, watching this from their favorite hiding spot behind a tree, can only wonder, are we being saved, or is this an elaborate audition for a position in the Department of Cosmic Accidents? Because every rescuer so far has brought more questions than answers. They arrive with energy, with enthusiasm, with several questionable ideas about how gravity works, and none of them bring a map. But all of them bring a point of view, a deep and sincere belief that what they're doing makes sense, and sometimes, in this world, that's all it takes. For the Sprunky, this world is a festival of unpredictability. One moment they're running in fear. The next they're flying, the next they're spinning, and then, somehow, they're saved not because someone knew what they were doing, but because someone kept doing something. There's a strange kind of love in that, A chaotic love crash into walls while carrying a jetpack kind of love, but love nonetheless. The pig believes not in tactics, not in logic, but in motion, pure, unfiltered motion. And belief, even when it's shaped like a slightly off balance pig in a rapidly deteriorating situation, can be powerful. What must it feel like to be a Sprunky watching another savior approach with confidence in their eyes and jelly beans in their brain? To stand in a line with your rainbow-colored friends clutching each other with tiny trembling hands and thinking, well, at least this one doesn't have balloons. And yet, there is always that moment right before the chaos peaks, right after the silence, where something goes right, a button is pressed, a machine is not detonated, but activated, a beam of light descends, and for once, no one explodes. The Sprunki rise, they ascend. Not just into the spaceship, but into the idea that maybe, just maybe, absurdity is part of the plan. Maybe there's meaning in madness. Maybe being saved doesn't require understanding, just persistence, just color, just enthusiasm strong enough to override reality. And the pig. He stands below, snorting with pride, knowing it is curly-tailed heart, that he has done something great, even if no one can explain what exactly it was. Because greatness isn't about clarity, it's about effort. It's about throwing yourself into the world with reckless kindness and letting the Sprunki decide for themselves whether you were a disaster or a miracle. And perhaps that's what Earth is now. Not a prison, not a battlefield, but a strange, beautiful testing ground where the brave, the confused, and the very, very round all get their moment to try. So the Sprunki look back one last time before the ship door closes, and in their high-pitched, incomprehensible way, they whisper, "Thanks, pig."
Ground angel. Saving tall one.